Everyone's talking about Britney Spears and her forthcoming book, The Woman in Me. In her memoir, she reveals that she suffered the loss of a child in an abortion with Justin Timberlake. He was her teenage sweetheart, and they dated from 1999 until 2002. They were 17 and 18 years old. She reveals that the pregnancy was a surprise, but for me, she states, it wasn't a tragedy. I love Justin so much, and I always expected us to have a family together one day. She goes on to say that this would be just much earlier than I had anticipated. But Justin definitely wasn't happy about the pregnancy. He said we weren't ready to have a baby in our lives and that we were way too young. Britney shared the agony of her decision. If it had been left up to me alone, I never would have done it. And yet Justin was so sure that he did not want to be a father. The assumption that an abortion is truly a woman's choice was recently disputed by the findings of a 2023 study conducted by the Charlotte Lozier Institute. In a national sample of women between 41 and 45 years of age, only 33% described their abortions as wanted and consistent with her values and preferences. All others, a whopping 67%, described it as contrary to their values and their preferences, with 24% describing their abortions as coerced. In fact, the American Psychological Association lists pressure from others to terminate a pregnancy as a risk factor for mental health problems after abortion. It's well known. Britney checks that box because she was terminating a pregnancy that was wanted and meaningful. Britney was in love with Justin, and she dreamed they'd have a family together. Other well-known risk factors for post-abortion trauma was her belief that abortion was morally wrong, as well as her ambivalence about the abortion decision. Britney shares in her book that she was raised not to get an abortion. Part of it was religious, and part of it is just what she learned from her family. In a previous study, researchers found that over 60% of women reported high to moderate levels of pressure to agree to an abortion, with only 5% of women saying that they felt little or no pressure to choose their abortions. Only 5% felt there was no pressure. The new study also found that 2/3 reported more negative effects, and they were more likely to say that their abortions contributed to a decline in their mental health. Britney, we know, was haunted for years, and the abortion damaged her psychologically, propelling her to abuse drugs, rush into the marriage with Kevin Federline as she desperately yearned to become a mother again. She shares, and I quote, "To this day, it was one of the most agonizing things I have ever experienced in my life." And we know she suffered a lot of trauma. This was the worst. And sure enough, when someone is unable to heal from traumatic experiences, they unconsciously get into situations which repeat fragments and can repeat themes of the original trauma. We call this traumatic reenactment, repetition compulsion. It's part of trauma bonding and certainly part of PTSD. All of these factors can lead to addiction in order to constrict powerful emotions. In a future video, I hope to share how Britney, a very talented, creative, and beautiful young woman's life, spiraled totally out of control as we look at the classic symptoms I've heard repeated all over the world related to pregnancy loss and unresolved grief. So I hope you can join me when we can explore the traumatic reenactment of multiple themes where others were able to gain complete control over Britney's life as she re-experienced profound powerlessness, the loss of her motherhood, sterility from a forced IUD, and years of heartbreak and grief as everyone else was able to move on with their lives, creating families of their own. And in the meantime, I can't wait to read her book. And you can read scores of true stories in my book, Forbidden Grief, The Unspoken Pain of Abortion, which is the study of the mystery, the drama, and the repetition of trauma after abortion, and why it's so important to help women like Britney who are suffering the loss of a child after abortion to heal. God bless you.